It's everyone's favorite video game out there. Although it's been a long time since the latest edition came out, NCAA Football 14 is one of the most popular video games to this date for all sports fans. It's been quite the ride, but NCAA has featured a ton of players that have graced the cover of the game. So, who was on the cover each year and where are they now? Let's go back and take a look. Before we get to today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you never miss another video. If you love college football content, then this is definitely the place for you. NCAA Football was actually the third name of the game. Bill Walsh College Football was released in June of 1993. It featured the top 24 college football teams from 1992 and 24 of the all-time greatest teams since 1978. While no actual players were named and no official team logos were used, colleges were listed by city and players were identified by number. Another edition of the game came out in 1995 that featured more teams and better gameplay. The series was then renamed a year later to College Football USA 96 and was the first version to feature all Division 1A teams. It was also the first in the series to feature real bowl games. 1997 was the year it was named College Football USA, and it featured its first cover athlete, Tommy Frazier. Then, in 1997, NCAA Football 98 dropped. On the cover was Florida quarterback and 1996 Heisman Trophy winner Danny Werfel. As a senior in 96, he finished the season with 3,600 yards and 39 touchdown passes. He was taken in the fourth round of the 1997 NFL Draft, and he played for the Saints for 3 seasons. He spent the offseason before the 2000 season with the Rain Fire in NFL Europa, where he led the team to a league championship and was named MVP of the World Bowl 2000. He then spent time as a backup with the Packers and the Bears in 2000 and 2001. He was drafted by the Houston Texans in the 2002 NFL expansion draft, only to be traded to the Washington Redskins a week later. After not being signed by another team in 2003, Werfel decided to retire from professional football in February. He is currently a motivational speaker and executive director of Desire Street Ministries. Charles Woodson graced the cover the following season. He won the Heisman Trophy with Michigan in 1997 and is still to this date the only defensive player to ever win the award. He was selected by the Raiders with the number 4 overall pick in the 1998 NFL Draft. He went on to have an incredible career as he was recently inducted into the Hall of Fame. He spent the first 8 seasons with the Raiders and then 7 with the Packers before spending the final 3 seasons of his career with the Raiders. He was a Super Bowl champion, a 9-time Pro Bowler, a 4-time first-team All-Pro, and was named Rookie of the Year in 1998 and Defensive Player of the Year in 2009. He was named to the NFL's 2000s All-Decades team and currently works with Fox Sports as a college football analyst. Ricky Williams continues this trend of Heisman winners being on the cover as he was on the cover of NCAA Football 2000. At the time, he had broken a number of rushing records while at Texas. He won the Heisman in 98 and had one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen from a running back. Hell, he had one of the greatest careers we've ever seen from a running back in college football. Williams was drafted by the Saints with the number 5 overall pick in the 1999 NFL Draft. The Saints paid a very hefty price to trade up to get him. He spent 3 years with the Saints before he was traded to the Dolphins for another big package of draft picks. But he retired from the NFL in 2004 after testing positive for marijuana. He wanted to find himself and took the year off. He returned in 2005, but was then suspended again in 2006 after violating the NFL's drug policy. Since he was suspended, he joined the Canadian Football League. He returned to the Dolphins in 2007, but appeared in only 1 game as an injury to his shoulder ended his season. He had a great season in 2009 as he rushed for over 1,100 yards with 11 touchdowns. He spent the final season of his career with the Ravens in 2011. He surpassed the 10,000 career rushing yards mark and became the 26th player in NFL history to do so. Since retiring, he has served as a football analyst on the Longhorn Network and was featured in an episode of NFL's popular docu-series, A Football Life. A longtime cannabis advocate, he co-founded a herbal wellness company, Real Wellness, with his wife in 2018. Real Wellness serves herbs that treat mental and physical health problems. Williams told CNBC that he views himself as a healer. NCAA 2001 featured the first cover athlete that didn't win the Heisman Trophy, Alabama running back Shaun Alexander. His final season with the Tide came in 1999, where he rushed for 1,400 yards with 19 rushing touchdowns. When he left Alabama, he sat near the top of every Alabama rushing record. He was drafted with the 19th overall pick by the Seahawks in the 2000 NFL Draft. His career in Seattle got off to an amazing start. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler and was named the NFL's most valuable player in 2005. That season, he finished the year with just under 1,900 rushing yards with an insane 27 rushing touchdowns. That offseason, he signed an 8-year contract to remain in Seattle. He became the first player to ever be on both NCAA Football and Madden covers, as he appeared on the cover for Madden 2007. His final 2 years in Seattle were a mess. He missed time with injuries and his production drastically declined. After a disastrous season in 2007, the Seahawks cut Alexander. He signed with the Redskins in 2008, but only had 11 rushing attempts with them before being released. And that would be the end of his football career. He currently has 12 children, and he tours the country speaking about faith and family. He also partnered with Play to Win Incorporated to help manage a baseball field and a community center. Back to Heisman winners, as Chris Weinke was on the cover of NCAA 2002. He took home the Heisman for Florida State in 2000. During his senior season, he threw for nearly 4,200 yards with 33 passing touchdowns. He was selected by the Panthers in the 4th round of the 2001 NFL Draft. In 2001, he was the starter when the Panthers finished with a 1-15 record. He threw for just under 3,000 yards with 11 passing touchdowns. After the season, he became the Panthers' backup quarterback. He would only start 5 games the rest of his career until he retired at the end of the 2007 season. In February of 2015, he became the quarterback's coach of the St. Louis Rams. After that stint, he joined Alabama in March of 2017 as their offensive analyst. Then, in February of 2018, he became Tennessee's running backs coach. In 2019, it was announced that he'd be moving from running backs coach to quarterbacks coach. He held that position for 2 seasons, but just last month, it was announced that he wouldn't be retained as new head coach Josh Heupel opted to not bring him back. Before we get to the other cover athletes, if you could please take a second to give this video a thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate it. It helps share the video with more college football fans, and it only takes a second to do. On the cover of NCAA 03 was Oregon quarterback Joey Harrington. During his senior season, he threw for 2,400 yards with 23 touchdowns. He finished his Oregon career with a 25-3 record with just under 7,000 passing yards and 59 touchdowns. Before all the great quarterbacks we've seen at Oregon in recent memory, he was the first really great one. He finished 4th in Heisman voting in 2001. He earned numerous honors, including First-Team All-American and Pac-10 Offensive Player of the Year. Additionally, he was one of 5 finalists for the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award. Harrington was selected by the Lions with the 3rd overall pick in the 2002 NFL Draft. His career in Detroit just never took off. In 3 years with the team, he started 44 games, throwing for 8,000 yards with 48 touchdowns and 50 interceptions. Fans grew tired of him and wanted a different option at quarterback. After the 2005 season, he was traded to the Dolphins. He started 11 games in Miami with some ups and downs, but overall, it wasn't a great campaign. He threw for 2,200 yards and had 12 touchdowns with 15 interceptions. That offseason, he agreed to a deal with the Falcons and started 10 games for them. He threw for 2,200 yards but had more interceptions than touchdowns. He was released that offseason and picked up by the Saints. Over the next year, he'd be released and cut by the team multiple times, but always hung around. However, he was never able to see the field. He was cut by them in September of 2009, and that was the end of his football career. In 2009, Harrington worked as an NFL and college football commentator on Fox Sports Radio. In 2010, he served as a color analyst for Oregon Ducks football games on the Oregon Sports Network. He also spent time as a college football analyst for Fox College Football on FX and Fox. In addition, he established the Harrington Family Foundation as a nonprofit organization with the goal of supporting youth education and activities as well as other miscellaneous benefits. Back to Heisman winners, as Carson Palmer was on the cover of NCAA 04. He won the Heisman at USC during his senior season in 2002. He threw for just under 4,000 yards with 33 touchdown passes while also breaking the school record for most completions, passing yards, and passing touchdowns in a single season. Palmer was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals with the 1st overall pick in 2003. However, he didn't play a snap that year. He spent time developing before being named the full-time starter in 2004. He would spend the next 7 seasons in Cincinnati, where he turned into one of the better quarterbacks in the league. While with the Bengals, he threw for over 22,000 yards with 154 passing touchdowns. Following the 2010 season, he requested a trade and wanted out of Cincinnati. He didn't report to training camp, and it looked like he was done playing. Midway through the 2011 season, though, he was traded to the Raiders. He'd be there for 2 years, where he threw for 7,000 yards with 35 touchdowns. Then, in the offseason of 2013, he was traded to the Cardinals. In 2015, Palmer had one of the best seasons of his career. He threw for a career-high and Arizona Cardinals record 4,700 yards. He also threw a career-high 35 touchdown passes. He led Arizona to the NFC title game. Over the next few years, his production declined and he suffered a few injuries. In 2017, he suffered a broken arm that ended his season. That offseason, he announced his retirement from the NFL. At the time of his retirement, he was 12th all-time in both passing yards and passing touchdowns. Up next on this list is Larry Fitzgerald, who was on the cover of NCAA 05, the first copy I ever owned. I remember this one because I had the combo where it was also the top spin tennis game as well. Fitzgerald was the best wide receiver in college football during his final year in 2003. He led the Big East Conference with 92 catches for just under 1,700 yards and led the country with 22 receiving touchdowns. He took home the Walter Camp Award and the Biletnikoff Award. He was an All-American and finished in 2nd place in the Heisman voting, just barely losing out on the award. In 26 games at Pitt, he caught 161 passes for 2,700 yards and set a new Pittsburgh record with 34 receiving touchdowns. He was the first player in school history to have back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons, and his 14 games with at least 100 receiving yards set a record as well. His 18 straight games with at least one touchdown reception is also an NCAA record. Although he played at Pittsburgh for only 2 years without redshirting, he petitioned the NFL to allow him to enter the 2004 NFL Draft, as he left his high school, Academy of Holy Angels, during his senior year to attend Valley Forge Military Academy. The NFL granted an exception to allow him to enter the draft, as he had convinced the NFL that the time he spent at the academy combined with his time at Pitt was the minimum 3 years removed from high school to make him eligible for the draft. He was selected by the Cardinals with the 3rd overall pick in the 2004 NFL Draft. Since then, Fitzgerald has been one of the best wide receivers in NFL history. He's an 11-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first-team All-Pro, and he's led the NFL in receptions twice and led the NFL in receiving touchdowns twice. He was named to the NFL's 100th anniversary all-time team, as well as the NFL 2010's all-decade team. He won the Art Rooney Award in 2014 and was named the Walter Payton Man of the Year in 2016. Currently, he's second in NFL history with 1,432 catches, second with 17,492 receiving yards, and is sixth all-time with 121 receiving touchdowns. He also shared the cover of Madden 10, becoming the second player ever to be on the cover of both Madden and NCAA Football. NCAA Football 06 saw a throwback as former Heisman winner Desmond Howard rocked the cover. Prior to Devontae Smith winning it just last month, Desmond Howard was the last wide receiver to take home the Heisman, as he won it while at Michigan in 1991. He finished that season with 62 catches for just under 1,000 yards and 19 receiving touchdowns. He also added 200 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns while having a punt return for a touchdown and a kick return for a touchdown. Howard was selected by the Washington Redskins with the 4th overall pick in the 1992 NFL Draft. Through his first 3 seasons in Washington, he recorded only 66 catches. He played 1 season with the Jaguars in 1995, having been selected by the 1995 NFL Expansion Draft with the 55th pick. Then, he played for the Packers in 1996, where he led the NFL in punt returns, punt return yards, punt return average, and punt return touchdowns, while also gaining 460 kick return yards and catching 13 passes for 95 yards. His 875 punt return yards were an NFL record. In the Super Bowl, he returned a kickoff 99 yards for a touchdown. He finished the Super Bowl with a record 90 punt return yards and 154 kick return yards and 1 touchdown. He won the Super Bowl MVP award, making him the only player to ever win the award based solely on a special teams performance. He spent the next 4 seasons in Oakland and Detroit before his career was over following the 2001 season. In his 11 NFL seasons, he caught 123 passes for 1,600 yards, rushed for 70 yards, had 2,900 punt return yards, and had 7,600 yards returning kickoffs. He also scored 15 touchdowns with 8 receiving and 8 punt returns. Overall, he gained over 12,000 all-purpose yards in his professional career, and currently you can watch Desmond Howard every week on College Game Day. Well, that wraps up part 1 of this video. Which one of these players were on the cover the first time you remember playing NCAA football? Drop a comment down below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you'll be notified when I drop part 2 of this series. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon for part 2.